What's up, guys? It's Candidate Master Dem Apples here, back again with another video. Hope you all are doing well. And today we're going to look at some chess traps that you might encounter when you're climbing the rating ladder. One we're going to look at from the white perspective and the other from black's perspective. Um, these are just traps that you can face or play yourself, but I wouldn't recommend them because they all have a pretty nice reputation. So at this level, like the beginner level, a lot of people go e4. And that's not to say e4 is a bad move. It's probably the best move, best by test, as Bobby Fischer said. But the most common response at the club player level is pawn to e5, and it's a perfectly fine move. No trap set yet. This is just normal chess, Knight f3, knight c6, still played at the highest level now, and white attacks the pawn, black defends the pawn, white brings out the bishop. It's pretty nice diagonal Italian game, and here black throws a kink and goes knight to d4. Now, you might have seen this being played before, and you might think to yourself, like, oh man, your first instinct is to take the knight, right? And be like, it's a piece. And trades are fine, I get some development in, not bad. I can castle next move, probably. But then you start to think a bit more to yourself, and you're like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute!
Isn't this pawn hanging? And so you're like, yes, let's go grab this pawn. And so black goes queen g5, hitting the knight, hitting this pawn. And you think to yourself, oh, no big deal. I'll probably go something like, I don't know, knight g4, block this attack. Although, it doesn't actually work, as we'll see in a moment. And then you realize, oh my gosh, wait a minute, he blundered. If I take here, I fork the rook and the queen. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So knight takes pawn, and you can see the eval bar. It's not liking this. And so, after this, black plays a very logical move, getting the queen out of danger, and counter-attacking the rook with queen takes g2. And after rook f1, practically forced. I mean, where else is the rook going to move, right? Can't really go anywhere else, and you can't defend it. Queen takes pawn. Whoopsies. You hung this pawn with check. Most natural move is bishop e2. Queen e2 is the only move that keeps white in the game, but you're not telling me this is a good position for white. I mean, black is up a whole 9 points of material, keep in mind, so things aren't looking too great for Team White here. Instead, after bishop e2, white can end his own misery after knight to f3. A very nice and disappointing for white. I don't know. This looks like a pretty nice smothered mate to get on the board. So let's take a look at white's other tries. Instead of knight takes f7. As we discussed earlier, knight g4 might be a move you're thinking of, but this fails to pawn to d5. A double attack on the bishop and the knight. So white doesn't really have a good choice here. If it were not for this move, white would go, let's say, h5 or something. White goes knight e3, defends this pawn, and is doing pretty well. Because he's pocketed a pawn, and, black doesn't seem to have much compensation for it. However, the move d5 works, and white's best move here is still knight e3, but after this, black is just up a piece. After queen g5, white can still get himself out of the hole and bail out with bishop takes f7, not knight takes. And after king to d8, white has to castle and just accept the fact that they are down, yes, an entire piece. But what do they have in return? Well, black can't castle, and white can probably start some sort of attack on the king side with a pawn storm. White's position is definitely not great, because after all, he is down a piece and still has to show some compensation for it. But at least white's alive, and it'll be an interesting game. So what's white's best move? Like, why don't all the top grandmasters play knight d4? Well, turns out your first instinct is correct. You just grab the knight, for the most part. Castling is also a perfectly fine move. Knight takes, castles is just the simplest, easiest way to play. White goes c3 next. So say after move like, I don't know, what does black play? Bishop c5? Well, this bishop c5 doesn't work right now because of this nice tactic. So what does black play? I don't know, knight f6 maybe? White can play something like d3, or like bishop e7. Well, now e5 is very strong. Or, but white's main plan revolves around getting c3 in. And after pawn takes pawn, knight takes, getting his knight developed, as well as building a strong center with d4. And as you can see, white is castle developed, is doing very well. Black, we can't really say the same for him. Alright, so this is how you refute this gambit, or like weird trap that you'll find a lot of people playing. Especially in the range of, let's say, roughly 500 to, I'd say, even all the way up to 1500, which is where most people are at. Don't fall for these traps. Maybe try these traps on your own, but do be aware that they can easily be countered with the tips that I showed in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.